Hey friends, Dinheru here on the Nitro Z18, and today I wanted to have a special talk with you about my confidence rigs. I spoke to you in my first Heroes Hot Take segment about confidence on the water, using things that you have confidence in so that you can catch fish, and I wanted to share with you today what my confidence rigs are, what it is that I have tied on every time I go out on the lake, what I use, when I use it, how I use it, and why I use it. So I'm hoping that you find this segment, if not entertaining, somewhat informative. Maybe you were just curious, or maybe you want to learn something. Either way, I'm ready for you to join us. Let's get into it right now. Confidence rig number one. If you have watched any of my fishing recaps, you probably already know this. Texas rigged Strike King Rage Craw. Why the Strike King Rage Craw? I don't know. I just have had really good luck catching fish on these things, especially flipping this Texas rig around and under docks. Can't explain it, but it's instilled so much confidence in me that it is almost the only thing that I'll throw near docks. I want to let you have a look at it. If you're not familiar with a Texas rig, it basically is a soft plastic that is rigged with a sliding bullet weight. This particular weight is 3/16 ounce, and I'm using the 4-inch Strike King Rage Craw. This one currently is in summer craw pattern, although I have found that any sort of green pumpkin pearl is another favorite of mine. Depending on the time of year, I might go with a reddish color. But this is a rod and reel that if I accidentally drop it into the lake in 20 feet of water, I'm risking my life to go get it, right? I don't know what I'd do if this rod or this reel ever broke. I guess I'd replace them, but I'd find it really hard. But this is the rig that I throw at any sort of stationary target. Docks are my favorite. I also like submerged timber. Lay downs in the water. You've probably seen me hit those. Basically anything where I want to do a pinpoint target, or I want to get under or around some sort of structure. Huge confidence rig, one of the first things that I learned when I started bass fishing, and I have stuck with it ever since. Now, you can use any sort of soft plastic here. Another favorite of mine is lizards. In fact, I've got a second rod in the box right now that's got a Texas rigged lizard on it. Any type of worm is good. I'll typically, when Renee is with me on the boat, I'll typically Texas rig up a worm for her. But any sort of soft plastic will work. Find a soft plastic that works for you. Find a color that works for you. And then if you want to stick with that, there is nothing wrong with that. You will catch fish on a Texas rig, guaranteed. And then you can experiment with different things and see what works for you. But number one on Dinheru's list of confidence rigs, the Texas rig. Confidence rig number two is a simple swim bait on a jig head. Now, this may surprise you a little bit because you probably haven't seen many fish catches with me with this rig, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is a Reaction Innovations Little Dipper. Basic paddle tail swim bait. It is on a 1/4 ounce jig head. You can see I rig it so that the hook is exposed through the top. And this is something that I have on all the time. It's always sitting on the deck. But here's the thing about this, is I go through phases with this bait, right? I will have long periods of time where I won't catch anything on this. And if you've been watching my recap videos, you'll know that I've been going through one of those periods. I've only got one fish catch, 2 fish catches maybe, in the last 3 or 4 months on a swim bait. And then there are days I could throw this thing 15 foot into a tree and catch a fish. It's just really weird how it gets in these streaky patterns like that. But it's a confidence rig for me. I always have it on. What I typically do with this depends on the depth of the water around me. If I'm flipping docks at the time and I'm traversing shallow water in between docks, I'll just use it to cover the water between the docks. If I'm out near deep water, what I'll do is I'll throw it out into that deep water, let it sink all the way down, and then just swim it back. It just all depends on what's around me at the time. But it especially excels in places where I'm a little scared to throw a crankbait, which is coming up next. I love throwing crankbaits, especially shallow crankbaits like square bills, but I'm deathly afraid to lose them in underwater shrubbery and stuff like that. And if you've ever gone to Bass Pro or any sort of bait shop and you've bought a bunch of crankbaits, you know what I'm talking about. They're expensive. However, swim bait and jig head, less than $1, right? So something I always have tied on, I feel like it gives me a more realistic look. And one thing about the Reaction Innovations one too, especially this one, is you notice that it's got a dark back and like a pearl belly, right? And when this thing rotates in the water, what it does is it causes it to flash just like that. And that's helpful when you're looking to attract fish. They're attracted to that flash. They want to come check it out. And remember, fish don't have hands with opposable thumbs. So what are they going to do when they want to check something out? They're going to bite it and they're going to feel it in their mouth. And that's when you got them. So number 2, swim bait on a jig head. Confidence rig number 3 for me is a crankbait. Now, the depth and the type of crankbait depends. Sometimes if I see bait fish sitting around in 5-6 feet of water, I'll throw a medium diving crankbait. If they're up shallow, I'll throw a shallow crankbait. If I'm just trying to cover shallow water between docks, it's a shallow one. You notice in one of my latest recaps, I caught one on a 10-foot deep diver, medium diver, I guess. But there's always a crankbait on. And what I do, a lot of folks tell you not to do this, but I do it anyway. And you will see that I have this crankbait on a snap swivel. And that's because I only run a few rods. I don't run 25 rods like a lot of guys do. And what I want to do is be able to switch crankbaits quickly. Now, you do you. If you feel like you get better action tying directly onto the line, by all means do that. And occasionally I will do that. But I like the ability to decide on a whim, like, hey, you know what? Instead of throwing a 4-footer, I want to throw a 10-footer and see what happens out here in this deep water. And I can rapidly switch. I don't lose any time and everything's fine. I have not, to my knowledge, ever lost a fish because of a failure of one of these snap swivels. I also, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know if they're scaring off fish or not, but I can tell you I catch a lot of fish on these. So I'm particularly fond of the Rapala DT series. In fact, right here is a Rapala DT4 in sexy shad pattern. Good bait fish imitator. This one on here is an old Strike King 1.5. And you can tell I've caught a lot of fish on this because of all the paint that's scraped off of it, right? Those rough teeth that bass have will scrape the paint off this. You notice one of the things that's cool about this is it has a really erratic pattern. And the reason it does, in my opinion, yours may differ, is because you see that there's a crack in the bill, right? Now that happened by accident. That happened from hitting some rocks somewhere. But one of the things I noticed is that it causes this crankbait to dart right to left erratically, not a predictable pattern. And I think that has helped catch some fish because it makes it look like it's a bait fish trying to escape. And that's the whole point with a crankbait, right? So the other thing about it, treble hooks, almost guaranteed hookup. You don't have to do a big hook set. It basically makes it real easy. So if you're just starting out and you feel like, and you've got a handle on casting, that's important, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Then running a crankbait is about as easy as it gets for you. It's very important that you be able to cast fairly accurately with this because these treble hooks, it's a blessing because any fish that bites this is literally going to hook set itself. You don't have to do anything. You just have to continue to reel it in. Maybe a little bit of a pull on the rod to make sure those hooks penetrate. But the opposite is true too. If you get caught into some underwater shrubbery that you didn't know was there, if you make a bad cast and you cast it into an overhanging limb, the crankbait is going to hook set itself, and then you're going to be in big trouble trying to get it back. So you have to be really careful. Make sure that you cast, or make sure that you know you're not casting near anything that could snag your crankbait. And I guarantee you, you're going to catch fish on this. Now, I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I want to show you. Number one in the honorable mention category is a spinnerbait. This is a 1/4 ounce Strike King spinnerbait with 1 willow leaf and 1 Colorado blade. I like this when there's a good ripple on the water, like what you see behind me right now, maybe a little bit more than this. And if you're new to fishing, you're probably asking yourself, why would a hunk of metal be attractive to a fish? But then you watch these things spin in the water, and it makes sense to you, especially if you've seen bait fish run around in the water near you. They imitate a group of bait fish, and for some reason, there are some conditions under which the bass just absolutely destroy these things. My personal best bass, 5 pounds, 0 ounces, was caught on a spinnerbait just like this one. So I don't have it out all the time, but if there's some ripple on the water and I feel like maybe I need something that's going to attract a little bit more attention, I'll roll a spinnerbait and see what happens. One more honorable mention for you. I don't have it tied on right now. This is a favorite of mine as well, especially if I see a lot of bait fish in the area and I'm curious as to what is hunting them underneath, and that is a rooster tail or some other sort of inline spinner. This is a Strike King inline spinner, 3/8 ounce. And what happens is this little blade rotates around the rest of this assembly, and it looks like a little bait fish trying to escape through the water. This is really good if you suspect that you've got bluegill or white bass and you see some schooling underneath there. You will catch largemouth on this as well, don't get me wrong. And I have done that. I've caught a couple of 3-pounders on this very lure right here. But what I'll do sometimes is, if I'm having a hard time finding fish, I'll downsize to this and just start rolling around and see what happens. So it's really good in those cases where you want to see if you've got white bass or bluegill, or if you're just having a really hard time, you feel like you need to downsize. This is a good option. A lot of people will poo-poo this thing, but I'm telling you, it will catch fish. And it'll catch fish of all sizes too. Biggest fish I've ever caught on one of these was a 12-pound catfish. That's right, a 12-pound catfish on one of these. It can happen. So don't discount these. They will catch fish. They're great fish attractors. So friends, I hope you enjoyed that little virtual tour through my rod box. These are the lures that I have tied on every time I go out, regardless of what lake I'm at, regardless of what's going on. And these are the things that I have the most confidence in. And they've worked out really well for me. One of the things that I want to do is I want to start experimenting with new stuff. Now that I can fish more, I've got more time to experiment. I don't have to get out on the water and feel like if I'm experimenting with a lure I don't have confidence in, I'm wasting time. Now I can do all that. And I think during the spring, what I'll do for you guys is a series where I'm going to take something I don't have confidence in and I'm only going to use that and see if I can catch fish. Because if I can't do it during the spring, I can't do it at all. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Hit me up in the comments, like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. I really appreciate you being here, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks.